We're live. Woo!
Welcome to the live stream. Put my microphone a little bit closer. Welcome to the live stream. Live stream with Calder and Erik today, and you guys, the chat. Yes.
Finally a fun live stream.
We're gonna have a very fun live stream.
Double audio?
Super
I was afraid of that. Damn.
Yeah. Which one? Double audio?
Well, I think you are echoing, Calder, but it's a E problem. Let me see if I can fix that.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. So let's wait for that Erik problem.
Okay, should be fixed now.
Okay, good. Yeah, so new live stream, and this time with Erik and me. Last time was Erik and Jeroen, I think. I hope you guys are enjoying the new format where we just do live stream with 2 people. Doesn't mean we'll never have 3 people again, but anyway. So today,
It's a lot more fun.
It's a lot more fun. Today's live stream, we're going to do a couple of things, but there is actually not that crazy much to share, strangely enough. Because there is enough to share about the community and everything, but let me put it a different way. I felt when we did live streams before Wooting 2 went out, it was like how would you say, it's like a momentum building up to the point where stuff has to go out, even though we didn't always talk about those keyboards.
True.
But now, I don't think not 100% of the people received it yet, but the large portion received it. A very, very large portion. There's some, special cases that we're still going through.
Anomalies. There was like one package from a guy in UK, and this package went through all Europe. Went through France, Italy, Spain, Germany, UK, Italy. Whoa, Calder. The stream is quite flipping.
It's my... Oh.
No, it's... I don't know, it's...
I thought it was maybe my connection. I can see sometimes it gets... Oh my god, yeah, now I see. What's happening here? What the hell?
I don't know, it's horrible. Well, we're trying something new today. Instead of using... Well, we're still using Skype, but in a different way, I guess. Okay. Please don't glitch out anymore.
Oh, it looks like I can control myself in OBS now. So, to answer Gotsy's stream, Jeroen is indeed working on the firmware, actually. On the SDK, well, maybe that's a good first thing to talk about. That's the first good thing to talk about. I saw there was a lot of activity in the Woot Dev channel, and I saw you guys were really actively looking and thinking about what you can make. We saw a couple of releases happening, well, at least one specific release that was very cool and was very active in the channel. It was from Evil RC, I forgot what it was, Evil and 2 syllables. But it was the auto hotkey wrapper, where we'll get to, because we're going to go through other little projects that were mostly RGB that were made with the keyboard. But it got us also talking about the SDKs, because as you might have noticed if you worked on it, the analog SDK and the RGB SDK are still lacking. They're not complete and not what they are supposed to be yet. And I think when we started with the SDKs, the goal was for the Wooting 2 project, when we would launch the Wooting 2 project on Kickstarter, that we had this like first step towards having an open source SDK and getting more creativity going. And since then, we've been really thinking about how can we flourish these SDKs and get more and more people on it to make things, even to the point where we really want the analog SDK to become standard for analog input keyboards. But it's easier said than done. For the redesign, yes. So this is the point I'm getting to, is now we're getting to the point where everybody has their Wooting 2, and there's a lot of activity and talking again, and we really should and want to get the SDKs, improve and change the SDKs to a point where we would like to see it, but we need the help of the community to do that. And that means in 2 ways. I mean that in 2 ways. One way is we have a certain vision what we would like to see for the analog SDK and what we would like to see for the RGB SDK, but what that will look like in more details it's very much depend on what your comments are and what your feedback is and what you believe is the best position for the SDK. So for example, if I look just at the RGB SDK, it doesn't only have to be an RGB SDK, it could also eventually be the configuration SDK, and I see I'm flipping out even more.
I don't know why that is. I don't know why it is. I don't know why.
Anyway, I can keep talking about it, but Jeroen made a couple of really great posts for it that you can read. It's on the Discord announcement channel, and there's two related links here. I'm going to throw in here. One is for the Alec SDK, another one's for the RGB SDK. And that's where you can have an open discussion also with Jeroen about what we should do with the SDK. And the goal and what I really hope is that with these discussions, we can get a better, clear image of what we want to make next, set up some goals of what we want to see in the next version, and hopefully that you guys can help build and work towards those goals. Because to be honest, I think from right now until at least Computex, which is in June, we won't have real good dedicated time to improve the SDK on our own, because we have a couple of other projects that we need to get done before Computex is there, and we decided to put full manpower on it, other than the utility stuff. So, yeah. Wow, did I just throw a lot of SDK stuff? That's probably just interesting for 2 people in the live stream. But
yes.
Hey,
even I don't care about the SDK. SDK from SDK. No.
Goedemiddag, de Moeskops. Yeah, Cypher, that's right. Your keyboard is going to improve like a fine wine. So, and that's, I think, that's where we're going to talk about today, is also, of course, the new beta with the advanced DKS that Erik will be showing later. But first, let's put a little bit of focus on chat. How are you guys doing? If you have your Wooting 2, how is it? And if you don't, and you just got a Wooting 1, power to you, because Tankelis rocks. Oh, I see already a question.
I saw a question from Frezo. Let me just put it on.
Yeah, we can do that.
On screen.
We can do that.
It's probably going to be
the beta. Wait before you throw on the question.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how long the delay is for the live stream. What if we have neither? If you have neither of the keyboards, then you're always welcome, brother, to join the chat and talk. You'll just have to imagine you're doing it on a Wooting keyboard.
We only answer questions that are typed on a Wooting keyboard. We can check that.
It's good to hear that black switches are really good. I still need to use black switches for a longer while. I shamefully, I haven't done that.
Well, it's interesting, right? So I swapped my WASD on my keyboard for black switches, because normally I have red switches mostly for gaming. And I've been using it in Overwatch a while, sometimes. And in the beginning, it took me a while to get used to, because it was a lot heavier than I'm used to. But actually, if you are used to it, you have finer control over analog than the red switches, because there's more force you can work with. It's quite interesting.
I've been doing, that's at most what I've been doing with blacks for a longer while, but haven't done the whole keyboard yet.
No, because I don't like them that much for typing, to be honest. That's what I do all day, right? Typing.
I'm pretty good with black switches, but I had a 60, or I have a 60% keyboard with black switches, and I've used it for a while, but I did notice my typing speed is slower with it. But from my experience with the FlareTech black switch, there is a big difference that even though the weight is the same, there is less resistance that you have. So maybe it will be a different experience. But once again, I still need to try for a longer period of time. Just have a heavy hand while typing that black makes a huge difference. So I'm not mistyping as much. That's true. That's a benefit though.
True.
It looks at the RGB for TKL and the numlock key is not functioning well in the beta. I think Jeroen is aware of that issue and he's working on a fix. I think the most important thing about the beta that we just released was that advanced DKS would work. We didn't necessarily push through any fixes as far as I know.
Just a few.
Yeah.
It's for some reason each time we add new stuff, like scroll bars appear out of nowhere everywhere. It's so interesting how it works.
But Erik, the new utility and designing for it, making something. Opinion?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh well, I to be honest, I actually like the new utility. But yeah, I mean, I designed it, so of course I have to like it.
Super biased.
No. I think everything within this new utility, it's a big mashup from a lot of things. Because over the last year, some people gave some design suggestions and gave some good feedback, and also how the utility could look better. I also had a friend of mine who also did a whole redesign and was a bit different, but all those elements put together, that became the whole new utility, which is pretty neat. There's still some things I don't like about it, but it also has to do, I think, with a little bit of inexperience on our side coding wise, especially making things responsive and scalable in a good way. I think this is a big improvement over the old utility, but
because now you can have both a big window and a small window. You can resize it, right?
Yeah,
it's responsive.
True. So it's overall a big improvement, and I think for the future we can add so much more stuff efficiently and in a nice way than with the old utility. So that's pretty cool. So I'm very excited about this utility, and I absolutely love to use it. But
and I have here a critical question, which I have to ask was, was it worth it to push out the redesign in the time that we pushed it?
I think we should have pushed through the redesign sooner, to be honest, because we had the design already for months there before we started implementing it. And that was because we had to work on some different things, some troubleshooting, and of course the whole Wooting 2 thing that sort of was in the way. And what Jeroen really wanted to do is, because we had to rebuild utility from ground up anyway with this whole new design thing. Well, that's actually it. We had to rebuild it from the ground up. So it also took a bit of time to get the whole base and framework going. And once we had it, it went pretty fast, because I think within a week we had all the big functionalities in this new utility. I mean, most of it was like copy pasting and formatting or coding it in a new way of coding as we do now, which is a bit more efficient. But yeah, it's been a journey.
I guess there is a big benefit. There is a nice thing that happened during the release time, is how involved people were with getting stuff rolling out and giving advice for the redesign.
Oh, for sure. And I think if you now look in the beta channel, and now the whole big discussion is of course about DKS, and a lot of people, I think at the top of my head, Darren, Daryl, and all different people just giving great examples how we can even improve more. I mean, most of it I don't agree with, but but we still consider them, and most of these ideas we implement them in one way or form, because most of the time if somebody has an issue and pitch something new, there is a more grounding issue there that needs to be fixed. And I'm not sure who made it. I have to look in Discord a little bit. It was Darren who made it. He had like where the keyboard view is, he made like a sort of a, wait, I guess I can show it. Boop, 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 bloop, 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 bloop. Okay, so there's, Calder, bye Calder, you let the stream. No. Okay, well, I'll fix in a bit. So this is what Darren actually made a mock-up, and I like this idea. I think this is a bit complicated, but we can use the space to add something similar. And like all these ideas, they really help to improve the utility even more. Yeah, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Oh yeah, I saw that one too. It's good. It's I think the groundbreaking part. I think it's what you kind of mentioned. The groundbreaking part about this more is that using that window for clarifying DKS versus necessarily using that way of showing it. I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really great way to get different views on the same thing and get more inspiration about what to do. Okay, let's jump into a couple of the questions. So that first question from Frezo,
okay. Proof this work. It's a very long question. Blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. Packaging, plastic cover, and why the back part is so big.
Packaging.
The
The plastic has a significant additional part on the back, which makes it very unwieldy. Something you can see. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's about the plastic cover that goes over the keyboard inside the box, and then we have like the switches and the puller installed on it now. And in the Wooting one, we used to just have like a plastic cover. I think Eric's gonna grab one. We had a plastic cover over the whole keyboard, more tight around it. And the whole idea at that time was also that you could use it like a dust cover. And with the new one, you can also use it as a dust cover, but it's much bigger, so it's a little bit less convenient. So that's the original one. Yeah, showing right now that we gave for the Wooting one. You have a new one also?
Yeah, well, I have a new one of the Wooting 2, but I guess for the Wooting 1 it's a similar thing. So in this case, we added all the accessories on the top because it's a bit more convenient way of shipping. We used to have the accessories in the bottom of the keyboard box, but that was just such a waste of space. Because I think since we have these new covers, we cut our shipping cost in half if we send stuff from China to Europe or to a warehouse. And well, that was a major thing for us. And
major difference, yeah. And also, what you would otherwise see from other manufacturers is that they would make bigger carton folds inside the box, and then there's like a space around the keyboard, and then they would hide the cable and other stuff behind the keyboard under the box, and that would be like loose or just, how would you say that, stuffed in there. And we didn't like the presentation of that. It doesn't look good when you open the box for the first time. We wanted to have that feeling when you open the box first time, you really feel you bought something awesome, and it has a good presentation. And we felt that this did did that part, and it really saved us in.
Well, the thing is,
packaging and shipping.
This whole plastic cover was never meant as a dust cover protection. This is just actually a shipping protection thing. As you can see, like these sides here are a bit more higher than where the key is, so the keyboard is like nice, tight and fit within the box, and you can shake the box, the keyboard won't wiggle in it, and most of the time stuff won't break. And when we had this cover, I think Calder came with the idea, it's like, yeah sure, now we have the cover, but that's such a big piece of plastic, can we make it more functional? And then Calder came with the idea to just make holes in it where you can have your cable through and just actually use it as a dust cover, which was pretty neat. So it's sort of a bonus that it's sort of a dust cover. Yeah,
that's true though. Originally it wasn't designed for that purpose. Yeah. Okay, awesome. That was an interesting question. Also for Pimmuskop, you can try changing the switch on your keyboard. If the problem repeats, we're always interested to know so we can learn. And you can always send an email to social@wooting.nl. But we don't do troubleshooting on the stream though.
I've got
okay, what's the next question?
I've got a great question here. It's from Ilso Fickle. I'm so bad with reading stuff in general.
Wait, before we jump into the new question, is it already it's already displaying. I thought, guess like the reactions, take a little bit longer for the topic you're talking about. But let's jump into the question, sorry.
Yeah, let's jump into the question. How are you guys dealing with your current and upcoming analog keyboard competition in the marketplace, particularly software support-wise? this is like a very interesting question, and I really love answering these kind of questions because we want more competition in the analog market, bottom line, because we want more companies to make analog keyboards, and that's the only way how we can reach a industry standard level of analog keyboards. I mean, sure, we can sell 100,000 keyboards to people, but that is still like very marginal compared to the whole world, especially if you focus on the gaming scene for now. So the more competition there is, the more keyboards there are with analog technology, and we absolutely don't care what kind of technology they use or how it actually works. But what we think is important is that there's only one standard for communication between the keyboard and the computer. So there's like one driver or one line to your keyboard and a game and how it all works within the game. So that way game developers can use one system to use analog keyboards. And for controllers, it's most time it's direct input or Xinput. And I think because we're still in an early stage of analog keyboards as a whole, it would be a shame if all these different companies come up with their own solutions and their own technologies, because then everybody has something, and some games will support that keyboard, some games will support that keyboard, and for us, we don't even care if it's our technology, if they use it as a standard protocol, as long as we can all unite on one protocol. That would be very neat. But because we are the first who made an analog keyboard commercially available, we have a little lead on the competition. So for example, the Analog SDK, there's already a game that has native analog support, full the game, and people made stuff with this Analog SDK, and
it's to be fair though, I think Full has been more of a great experiment that we've been going through.
For sure, but
than that it's
for sure, but it is an experiment and experience also for us to improve.
Yeah,
and
so I think with everything that we do, literally is the first time that we're doing it with zero experience in the past. So also with these SDKs and open sourcing it, is also the first time that we're doing something like this, and it's a great learning experience. So now with the open discussion that Jeroen posted, because I saw God's stream also mentioning about this, but since Jeroen posted like a open discussion for those SDKs, and it's kind of like, okay, we open source the SDK, and SDK is really something that we feel can add real value to the keyboard, and something that everybody can work on without getting too nitty-gritty with things that we actively work on. So how are we going to leverage the community or actual people interested in this to help improve it? And that's for the Analog SDK. Of course, the idea would be that not only our keyboard supports it, but other keyboards support it as well. So the total community can grow in whom can help improve that SDK. And there's no licensing, there's no backdoors in that SDK that these keyboard makers or end users need to pay for or need to worry about. It's really just about getting this one hub where we can have analog input keyboards just become useful is the big thing. Because because we're talking about competitors, and obviously the one competitor that we're having this year is Cooler Master with Aimpad inside, and you can see that they have their own solution, and most likely they will also come with their own SDK. And no idea if it will be open source or not, but there you can see that we'll have the first branch of a analog input keyboard company, or a company with an analog input keyboard taking a different direction. And the only way to get these kind of companies to really jump on our analog SDK is just to get more and more value on it, and more proving the point that even the end user of other company keyboard asks for this compatibility, because it's just that much better. And the only way so more analog input keyboards is always a big benefit. And another point about this competition is that you can see that I feel they are also struggling with the same thing, is that it's the keyboard. The fact is, it's not as easy. You plug it in, you can start playing a game straight away, and you're done. And your target group for this keyboard, they would expect this, at least for our competition right now. So they're having this, like, how to teach a user to use this keyboard, how to make it easy to get started, kind of thing. And if it's effective or not, and if it's good or bad, doesn't matter. But the main thing that it does is make more people aware that there's analog input, and that there's a difference between an analog input keyboard and a regular mechanical keyboard. You don't want to know how often we still get comments from people like, "Oh, I thought this was already possible on a mechanical keyboard." Isn't that a mechanical keyboard if it has analog input? So it's good. It's really good.
Well, the thing I really wanted to finish my whole topic here, and I also wanted to make a notion to Cooler Master and the MK 850, 851. I'm not sure because they changed the names a little bit. I tried to keep it once myself. It was pretty cool, pretty great. What you can expect from an analog keyboard. But a thing that really surprised me was how underdeveloped the software part was. I mean, I haven't played around with the software myself, to be honest. I only saw it on YouTube videos so far. But a lot of cool functions they just easily could have added, or things that would have streamlined it better in general for the end user, and for some reason they opted to not do it, or it will come in the future, and that's just such a shame, because I was hoping to see something cool and new they came up with, something we don't offer at the moment, but unfortunately it wasn't really the case, so it was kind of a bummer for me, and yeah.
But I guess that's also, I think, once we get to the point where we do have more analog input keyboards on the market, the reason why we are not too bothered with it, and reason why we feel it's a good thing, is because until so far it grows the total market, and it educates the end user, which is great, because it also increases the chances for people to find us and buy our keyboard. But as soon as we get to a point where there's so many analog input keyboards on the market, obviously we need to be able to compete with something. And the thing we just compete with is everything we're doing right now, and mostly, as you can see from the utility and what we do with the software and what you can get out of it, and involving you as an end user as much as possible in that development and what you want and need. That's where we want to excel. That's where we want to make a difference in our competition, with our competition.
Well, and I think like the last two years we've been mainly focused on these more hardcore features in utility, like DKS. I mean, DKS isn't a simple concept everybody can understand very easily, or something that will come in the next few months is full programmability. That's also a more hardcore feature, not for the probably most casual users won't even bother with it. But when we have like this whole basic setup in utility with these more advanced features, from that point on we're going to not dumb everything down, but we're going to simplify it for the novice users. Like a plan we have to introduce in utility within the next 6 months is automatic game detection or automatic profile loading, depending on your game you're starting. So people can share profiles in app, so within the utility, and really want to have a function where you can just say like, hey, if I open this game, it just loads the best or most used profile for this game. So novice users just have to click on a button and then it will work in the game. And sure, there are exceptions because in some games you have to unbind stuff and whatnot, but just streamlining this whole process and experience for the novice end users, that's a thing that will make the difference in the long run.
Yeah, that's what you see from Love of the Fight also mentions in chat, a similar issue where somebody didn't buy the keyboard because he realized he had to tinker with profiles and stuff. And I really like to take the example with Z-Mouse, for example. It's a mouse where you have a lot of functionality. Erik has one there. There's a lot of functionality on the mouse. Their software is, it's not my type of software, to be honest. And but you can do a lot with the software. You can do more with it than you can do with ours. But the big con and the big disadvantage is that you need to tinker so much, you need to think a lot about what you want, and you need to be really involved to get the thing you want out of it. And I'm the kind of end user that just not bothered to do that. Even though I would understand it, I don't bother with it.
No, totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I think we are in a very lucky position because we came from 2 Kickstarter projects. Most of our users who use the keyboard are these more tech-savvy people who understand if we make mistakes or if we try out new stuff. And the end user's like, hey, but I spent like $160 from my keyboard, doesn't work, blah, 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 I want my money back. And I mean, most of you guys, you understand like, hey, this is a work in progress, and at some points we'll get a thing that's satisfactory, and everybody helped a little bit with it just by using it, giving feedback, playing around with it. And I think within a few months we will reach a point where this keyboard will be more accessible to the novice end user. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see in the chat also it's building up to the point where the issue we're really getting into is, as long as this is my opinion for most part, I don't know if I'm catching this the right way, but as long as we're using, let's say, this Xinput trick or controller trick, it will never be generally accepted, because you're always going to run into this issue where the game, it's like a small hack to make it compatible in the game. And even if the game supports it, you're still dealing with gimmicky settings, to put it that way. Like, ideally what you would want to have is that you have the game supports keyboard, mouse, controller, but when it comes to keyboard support when it comes to keyboard support and information, there's also a part where there's a range, an analog range. And when it's a normal key press, it's just from 0 to 250, for example. But if you have an analog input keyboard, you can actually have the 0 to 250 range. But it's separated from the whole controller stuff, because using a controller joystick is a much different experience, much different analog curve and dead zone settings that you would want to have. And you have a lot less accesses, so it would be amazing if the assumption would, if it would be amazing if it would be as simple as possible for the game developer, where they just have to say, all the keyboard settings, is this what it is for the game, but now I just have to set an analog range or curve or value, and it's automatically accepted because you don't need to change any of your keyboard keys anymore, because it's already set by the game. It just transforms your WASD all of a sudden to analog input, because it can also accept that input range. That would be the most ideal situation, but that's very far for now. We're very far away from that kind of situation, though. It's kind of like you see that what Steam did with their Steam controller. It was combining a lot of standard stuff. Like, Steam tried to tackle this in some way, and you see what solution they made, which was pretty awesome, but also fairly complicated.
Well, I think Steam is like a perfect example what we want to achieve in the end, because they made a complex device with everything in one device, where you can set up everything in really crazy ways and have a whole user database per game that can set controls for you. But I think their biggest plus is that they have something called Steam, where they just have almost every PC gamer in there. And
but even how Steam does it, it's not ideal. It's really still like you're hacking around standards and trying to make your one device work. I think there is a big difference between what we're doing and what Steam has, is that a keyboard is a device everybody has at home, no matter if it's an analog one or not. Just need to make sure that we get more analog input keyboards, so then at some point it will be natively supported and pushed. Until that time, I think, and which I would love more is, and this is also for us, because I feel we are going to touch this subject of what Erik was mentioning about profiles, and make it easier to have your keyboard set up for that game using all the current standards. and make it easier for the end user. But at the same time, it's a lot of work, like a lot of work to get that done, and it's a lot of maintenance also that's required to do something like that, and it's not ideal. So my feeling for the most effective way for us right now to deal with analog is actually build features that you can immediately use and are not dependent on those few game gimmicks that you can apply. And that I think one of the great examples that we have now is advanced DKS. Is a way where you can really leverage analog input in all different kind of games. But it's just a matter of setting it up. And the setting it up part, I think Jeroen and Erik did a really great job to make it as easy as possible to understand, so that the barrier to want to use it is much lower. And that's in the end a very great goal, or a very great thing to achieve, is to implement these kind of useful functions, but lower down the entry barrier as much as possible, so you even feel convenient to use it. And that's where also this profile sharing becomes a bigger part, where these kind of functions are independent from the game. Shit. So, whoa, where did the chat?
Oh, you cannot say shit on stream.
Oh no!
No, don't say shit on stream. Not allowed.
Where are the Twitch rules?
Oh,
this is a mature channel. It's a mature channel, guys.
I was just reading through the story what Darren had to say in the chat. I mean, it's a bit scattered over 20 lines. Too long didn't read, so it's like the good part. Keep the X and Y input from the keys, but normalize the output so it's always max speed. That way, it stays fast and responsive, but still allows you to make smooth turns. Wolfram has a toggle to sprint option, forcing max speed, even when you're not fully pressing W. It feels really nice for a keyboard. I mean, that's one way to see it. And later on, Booborn said if you want game devs to support it, your best bet is to talk to game developers, no, game engine developers. Example, Epic for Unreal Engine 4.
Yes.
Once you get engine support, it's much easier for game devs to implement support.
Yes,
for sure.
Booborn is 100% correct there. And that's exactly where we should be aiming our guns at when we want that native support. But I think before we can get to that native support, the community needs to be a lot more bigger.
Well, each time Jeroen and I, when we went to Gamescom, or in the Netherlands, there's also this game events, first look, I guess. And if there are game developers, we always try to talk to them. And we also did it on DreamHack Winter a few times. When they're game developers, we always talk about our technology, what we can do, and most of them are like really excited, and they spark with ideas how they can implement it or have more control over character, or even more unique ways to play their video game. But the bottom line is, most of the time, their biggest issue is like, it's very cool, but it's just not there yet, the whole spectrum, because the player base is way too shallow of people who use an analog keyboard. And so let's say now we have Respawn Entertainment with Apex Legends. I mean, sure, analog works in the game, and maybe you can even think of more cool ways to use analog, like slowly touch spacebar to make a small jump, or press it all the way down to make a big jump, all that kind of jazz. But even if we sold like 100,000 keyboards, Respawn Entertainment won't make it into their game, because it's like, yeah, sure, 100,000 people, and we have to change our game engine and give some people an unfair advantage. It's like, nah. So I think that there needs to be more analog keyboard out there before we reach that point that game developers actually make their games based on analog keyboards.
Yeah, and that's why we're pretty far away from it. And that's also why, if we're going back to the competition part, why we, from the beginning, forced ourselves to go for full, entire keyboard analog input, not just a couple of keys. So, and that's also why we decided to never because it just doesn't make sense, is for now, and hopefully never, release a keyboard with just a few keys analog. The only moment that I can see that it's useful or good to have a keyboard with a few keys analog is a moment that it's natively supported. Because at the point that it's natively supported, it's like, well, maybe 80% of games only use like
at the moment, at the
six
moment,
axes.
I'd say at the moment, most of the time, it's about movement, right? The whole analog input, but it can be much more, and that's why we always opted to make everything analog, just to think about these ideas, because movement is already great.
Much more outside of gaming also, and it's very simple example is activation point.
Oh no, an even better example, since we launched DKS, I think it was White Scourge, Wednesday, posted a screenshot about how he binded all his numpad things for Photoshop, shortcuts, and some functions with DKS. So like combining keys and do stuff, and he uses it in a way of, sort of interdimensional macros, so to say. Because some things actually make use of the DKS, other things just like pressing the key all the time down for different things, and there's a lot of things you can do with an analog keyboard outside of the gaming spectrum, but we still try to focus on the gaming spectrum because that's, in our way, the easiest way to reach a whole big audience. And for most other tools like Photoshop, video editing, there are other products out there that are probably better at the moment than what we can offer. But in the future, sure, if we will also expand the whole analog universe beyond gaming.
Yeah. It's just it's all taking a little bit of time, though.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we don't neglect it, and every time somebody has an idea that has to do with gaming or outside of gaming, I mean, you betcha we write it down. It's our idea. we can run with it. Thank you.
Yeah. Future business model. Gonna earn so much on this. Oh, those ideas. So Dervasav is coming with
media keys. Our idea, my idea. I came out with media keys.
Dervasav is coming with a great question. Is there a way to have multiple analog input for the same action on different keys? Because, for example, in GTA, they can walk. I mean, actually, in GTA, you don't want to have walking on WASD, right? You would, and if you would drive with using numpad, then you don't want to have a double. But I understand what you mean, though. You want to be able to have double inputs because you can have it laid out over two different sections of your keyboard. I think we've. I remember this was in the past brought up a couple times that should be possible, but nobody has brought it up for a long time.
Well, there was a point that in the crude utility, it was possible to bind, let's say, left joystick to different keys over the whole spectrum.
Original version.
An original version, and sure, there are some cases with, let's say, GTA. Where it's convenient to have a, let's say, your right trigger and left analog stick on your numpad, so you can drive a car and then use WASD for walking analog-wise. But I don't even think you can really walk analog in GTA, so it's more for driving. And we didn't want to confuse the use that much, that you can bind the same Xbox controller or Xinput thing to different keys, because it could be more confusing for the more novice users. And then we just thought, hey, our profile switching is so fast, you won't even notice if you switch your profile. So let's say you want to keep playing with your WASD for a different setup for your car and for your walking, or even on a boat or bicycle, just map your profile swapping key to, let's say, caps lock, and then you can easily swap between them. And with our keyboard, there's no delay when you swap between profiles. Yep.
Sorry, dude. That I typed in between.
Yeah, Eric, that's the best solution.
Eric, shut up about this thing. That's the secret. Blah blah blah. No.
But if you just bind it over multiple profiles, it's that's for now the best solution you can do, I guess, for this specific issue.
Okay. Should we?
Let's go for the fun stuff.
Because we're talking about all these analog functions and stuff. Let's jump into advanced DKS then.
No,
Right?
no. Let's jump into this. I'm going to play this video, which had 24k upvotes by Hydrogas.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Hydargos 123 on PC Master Race Reddit. I really love this one. And in the meantime, I'm going to fix Calder a little bit. Where's Calder? Calder, where are you?
I don't know. Where am I?
Calder.
Why am I not here?
Calder, where are you? Oh, you're hidden here, man.
Short shifting. I need to depress the acceleration a bit in the same way I have to use. Same time or?
I don't know why. It's. Here we go. Here's Calder, boys. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Am I a line? And then I'm a big blur.
This is so weird, but just for everyone else, normally what we normally do is just record the Skype call. We with Calder with a screen recording or window recording, but there is like a new thing, and it was like, what was the name again? NDI source, and that's where you what podcasters use. See, so you can have like the actual Skype window here without the whole call stuff and the Skype crap. So I felt like, hey, let's use that, but it turns out it's like buggy as fuck.
Great, man.
Okay,
Works great.
But now you're back. Let's hope you.
Hey. Okay. Oh, it still has. Of course, it didn't. Of course, it still had to have the Skype logo.
Yeah, of course. But that's the thing we cut off, right?
Okay.
Okay, but I actually love this Skyrim meme. It was so nice. Because I expected something, but I didn't expect the Skyrim memes. That was pretty cool. Okay, yeah. Let's go into some. Before stream call, I was talking like, hey, so many people submitted stuff to the. I received my Wooting hype and so many Wooting 2s, and there was so much. And to be honest, we didn't prepare the stream too well, and that's why we decided that everything. Wait!
We prepared so well.
No.
All these things ready.
No. We came up this morning with the idea like, hey, let's showcase everything and put an end to the whole Wooting 2 thing. And in the end, it would take us too long to gather all the pictures, see like the good stuff and the bad stuff, and talk about it. And we didn't really have time for that, so we didn't prepare it that well. And we decided that the next stream is going to be sort of the end of the Wooting 2 Kickstarter, because there's still a few people who are waiting on the Wooting 2, sadly enough, because of circumstances. But hopefully, by the time within 2 weeks, everybody has the Wooting 2, and we can sort of close the Wooting 2 Kickstarter project together and go through all the highlights, the lows, and the whole receiving part of it. Yeah. Great, right?
Okay.
But
we could have just not mentioned that part.
But there are some really cool things within that people shared on Discord that they made with.
So you're still going to show the things on Discord, but that's the RGB stuff then, right?
But we're going to show now some RGB stuff. So
yes, okay.
First start with this one. Who made this color? The GIF color recognition.
Cactus Man. So
Cactus
big,
Man.
Yes, Cactus Man. It will be featured on the dev.wooting.nl website
soon. IO.
Oh no, not this one. This is not Cactus Man. This is somebody else on Reddit that I don't have the name of with me right now, but I will take a look while I'm talking.
That's pretty cool how he sort of shows the GIF or video on the keyboard at very low.
On Reddit.
Okay, Eurazon. Aurora already has it, but now you can do it on Wooting.
Aurora this, Aurora that.
It's
guys.
Doesn't matter if it already exists. It works in the Wooting. That's amazing. That's sick.
I feel we have to remember that now you don't have to start up the Aurora software to get this. Now you need to drive some weird ass code in the background to make it work.
Exactly.
The Aurora software is pretty extensive. There's a lot of options in there. I think it's very hard to not like have an RGB thing that's not in the Aurora software. But
okay, let's go.
What I'm hoping for what everybody should be hoping for. It's like, whoa, this is so cool, and then it's like part of the utility, and then like, bam, it works straight away. Okay.
Okay, now go to the Cactus Man was, right? Hopefully this works.
Yes. Oh, we have Darren with a very critical question. Utility apps, when?
Okay, so
yeah.
Cactus Man made some RGB games on the Wooting. I mean, it's not Snake. This is like the Google Chrome offline dinosaur game clone thingy, which is pretty sick.
Yoshi? Or no, Yoshi is the Nintendo character, of course.
Just like the offline browser dinosaur. Dude, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too.
Yeah, and he also made Wootris, and that's like Tetris on a wooden keyboard in a special way. I mean, look how cool. It changes. It works.
Yeah, I also felt really cool to have it. I mean, it's not like it's practical or something, you know, but that's everything of RGB is not practical, but it's fun to play with.
Yeah, I really like this kind of stuff. It's pretty cool, and it's also sort of a show thing for your keyboard, right? If you're LAN party, can your keyboard do Wootris? I mean, can you imagine if you have these RGB games combined with analog functionality?
Ooh. But I think the big takeaway here is that it's really cool to see, even if it's the RGB SDK, to see people actively trying and making things. I'm really happy to see that, because other than my biggest wish where it actually develops into something valuable for everybody, right? And valuable for everybody for me means you can actually, as a regular end user, see this, click something, and then start using it. Okay, we're not at that point, but that would be my end goal, right? It's really great to see people play in this way.
And think around with it, because we can learn a lot about it, and especially if you make these more complex thing with the RGB SDK or with the analog RGB in another way of form, it will only help us to improve the whole analog SDK.
Yeah, I think like analog fast forwarded in video playback, or like in Photoshop doing like brushes and stuff. Like from my understanding, okay, so MIDI in general, that is a possibility, and it's like, well, why have you guys not done something with it? Is that none of us are music people. None of us know anything about MIDI. There's been a dev.wooting.nl project where somebody made a MIDI compatibility, but I also feel that to take that direction requires a lot of resource and time. And I feel if we do that, and when we do that, we have to do it properly, because it's a whole new market and place to do something. So you can make something for fun, like we have on dev.wooting.nl, but I feel if we would start doing it, we need to do it very proper, and we need to do it good and useful, not like a quick implementation. Oh, this is fun, you can use it. And then when it comes to like Photoshop and video playback, I think there's no like good support for that, to be honest. I think they like in Photoshop changing brush size, it's just a repeating the button, it's faster hacking. Or slower. It's hacking, yeah. And it makes me think, by the way, is for us in that way, instead of making like, oh, this is like your Photoshop tool that you can now use to change brush size, for us it's much smarter to make, look, now we have a repeat key button, so you can bind anything. No. And then listen, and then you share profiles, right? And then you have like a Photoshop profile, which sets that up for Photoshop.
Well, I think it's better if you put it more on a utility apps thing, because at some point the base functionalities of the Wooting or the utility should be like a base thing that everybody can use in a general way of sense. And I think a Photoshop plugin or Photoshop tool is more of a niche thing. And I think what Darren says, like utility apps, these are kind of things that people should be able to, in utility, search for like specific plugins or apps, and then they just can add it to their own utility instead of having all these features for everybody, which is way too overwhelming for a novice user. But you can just download within a utility the Photoshop plugin, and it enables like this Photoshop thing where you can set up stuff. And I think that's way more convenient for the end user, because else it's just another function in utility that most people won't even use.
Well, that's where I would get a bit conflicted, because what I would be most afraid of is once you get like a app store or plugin store, you get into the problem where stuff starts to become bloated.
No, but the thing is, people bloat it themselves because you choose an app you want to install.
That's like the thing you don't want.
But if you bloat it yourself, then it's fine. But the base version should still be. There's a whole different topic that we shouldn't do now.
No.
No. I mean,
because this is very important. Like, because how I would rather think of it or see it is that you have a base tool in which you can create the necessary function, but the way people share it with each other is by a profile which sets up the tool as you want it. So you can call it the Photoshop tool, right, for changing brush sizes, and it's as simple as clicking or copying the profile code or whatever to get it into your utility, or even in the utility itself has like a searcher. But it's not like you're installing a plugin or an additional piece of code. It just sets up the tool for that specific thing, or that just like advanced DKS, you can make a lot of different things with it.
But then you want to add all that kind of stuff in the base utility, and then you just bloat the base utility. Let's say a key repeat could still be useful, and more macro full programmability is pretty useful. But some things aren't useful for all other users. And I guess for those cases, you just want separate plugins or little apps that people just can double click to install. I mean,
okay, well, I guess if we get to that point, then it's more about, as long as it's not like a nifty, stupid hack, right? Because but I would rather see that as you have Analog SDK, supports X application, and in utility you say, I want to have this. So that's when you install that like link.
For example,
something like that. Or you don't even need it because it's already natively supported straight away because it has Alec SDK support.
I mean, probably you don't. You only have to download like a small fraction of the code, right? If you want to force.
But it could be like, but maybe it has Alec SDK support. It works with the application, but maybe you want to be able to change settings or something, and you have like in the utility an interface for that, for which you would download the thing or install whatever. But okay, that is very far, looking very far, and it's a way that things could go. But okay, it just makes me think about Evernote and what happened with Evernote, and they had like this whole application zone, and you know, it's like bloaty shit at one point, or like or the word, you know, like with WordPress, once you start installing too many plugins and themes and things, it just like becomes a big monster of code.
It's a mess you create yourself, and then that's sort of acceptable. But can you imagine if you just get like a blank WordPress thing with all the most used apps ever, like the 20 most? It's like overwhelming. But if you install them manually, those 20 things, then it's like, okay, so
Gatsy Stream says to keep it simple, there's a curse.
Wait. First, about the Wacom tablets. Yes, Wacom tablets are also hacked things. They just do key repeats in a different way, but most of it's like key repeats. The same with all these DAO things that you can see with these timeline scrubbers for more the video software and stuff. That's just key repeats. It's very interesting because I expect it was like some sort of secret plugins they created, but no, it's hacking.
It's hacking.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised how much shit is just hacked together.
It's weird, right? But as long as it works and the user doesn't notice it's fine, right? So
so after advanced DKS and maybe let's say another analog function, big one, should be key repeat, based on how far you press down the key, or it's even part of DKS, who knows. What? Okay, I have a question for chat. Okay, let's say we make a key repeat future with some. No, without the plugins. Let's say we make a key repeat future, and we would ask $1 for the development of it. Yeah.
Don't answer it. It's a trap.
No,
monetization.
It's not a trap.
It's a real thing.
Look, I'm going to be very honest with you, okay?
You only have to watch like 3 ads before you can use the.
I'll put the cards on the table. Why am I asking this? Okay. Why am I asking this? Is it's one thing to make keyboards. It's one thing to make keyboards. Okay, please don't. Okay. Okay. The problem here I'll lay it out. Okay. As long as a lot of keyboards sell, there's no problem. But the more you need to work on software needs equal to more selling hardware. But that hits a limit. So the dilemma becomes, how would you say it in English? How can you, what's the English word for that?
Rip more money from people.
If you have to invest a lot into the software, right? How does that translate into the return? Because that has to be returned in hardware sales. But if you're working so much on software that's equal to like making a software as a service company application, right? Then how can that be equaled with hardware? It's a very big dilemma. And I'm not shitting you.
No, I understand your point, but I think if you buy a product, and let's make it all abstract, okay? We're not mentioning anything. We're not pushing something in a similar. It's just a brain. A hypothetical discussion. Is that the correct word?
Yes, it is.
I think if you buy hardware, and let's make it simple. Let's say you buy a Wooting 2, you expect to get the utility for free. I mean, it's right. It's sort of a given, and I think everything we add, even within the future, I mean, probably will reach one point within a few years where some features aren't possible on a Wooting 1, for example, because the technology is just older. I mean, that could be. But I think the utility should be free for life if you own a hardware product of Wooting. But if you look at the other way, let's say we want to go for the next mile and have Razer keyboards access to utility because we have some amazing analog features, and Razer now has an analog keyboard, and the Razer fanbase wants to make use of our analog features. I think for those people, all we need to ask money from Razer, you know, to earn money for ourselves back, because other people outside of the Wooting universe use it. Or you can ask money on an end user, and let's say you buy a license to use the utility for a year for $10. I mean, I think then it's fair. But I think if you buy I think at the moment, if you now buy a Wooting keyboard, you would expect to get the utility and all the updates for free forever as the end user.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is a great way of looking at it, but then you definitely need to reach a point where your software can scale outside of your own keyboard. That would be the goal then. Because it's exactly what GotsyStream says is, and this is kind of the dilemma, is software is a very important point for us. We want to add and do a lot more on that field, but we need to make developments in that field is very expensive. And we only have one person to do that right now, for most part, is Jeroen. And it's impossible to fully rely on Jeroen to carry that on his shoulders. So you need to have more people. But people with the capability to work on this kind of stuff are expensive. It's not as simple as hiring somebody for customer service, for example, right? So how can you? So you need somehow to earn that back. And if the great software is returned with great hardware sales, that's one way. But you really need to question question yourself how to deal with that, because you can ask yourself this question: why do you think a lot of keyboard manufacturers have such shitty software? Because they don't invest in their software. And to do that, they just do it on project base once, or they get it like a template of the software. That's why the software is so shit.
I mean,
so it's a real issue. And then when it comes to open sourcing, I'm just putting it out here, okay? I just want to have a discussion about it. When it comes to then open sourcing the software, you get into a whole different problem, because then you're saying 100% I rely on my hardware sales, like 100%. I'm competing only on hardware, right? But I'm sorry, but then that also means all our unique selling points where we excel in right now is thrown on the table, and you fully rely on your hardware sales. It's also a very dangerous path to take. If we would not be interested in making firmware, if we would have not been interested in making the utility software, right? If that would have been the case, going open source is a very easy step to make, because then you're like pushing it to others to do that work for you. And you at time little by little, or at sometimes you start working on the software here and there, but the community does the rest. And that's why you have software like the QMK, because that's really great. You can make keyboards, have keyboard software, and and it's continuously improved and worked on. So, you know, it's not as easy as just saying just open source it and you're done, because open sourcing it, 100% investing in your community, is a very big step to take, and that means that you need to have very active contributors, and you need to have a really big community, because
and you become reliable on your community, right? And also, let's say somebody makes something from the community, push it to the whole thing, that you also need to check it if it's like correct and if it meets up to your own utility standard. Else it will be like a big crumbly mess.
And it's also what Love of the Flight says: open source is also crazy maintenance and oversight, and that part is very true. And that's one of the bigger reasons also why we've withheld. Like before, we've also talked about utility doing open source, yes or no, because we've been contemplating this for a very long time. But the reality is also, as soon as you go open source, also means that there's going to be 1,000 more opinions and influences on what it's supposed to be. And it's going to branch into many different things, and not everybody's going to be focused on the same thing and actually building what is, you know, what it should be.
I think at this point we're in a very, very good stage in how the whole workflows goes with the utility, in my opinion, because we push out something, we get great feedback, and we make the end decision what we do with the feedback. And most of the time we discuss everything internally, and sometimes we bring the discussion outwards, and we just think like, what would be the best for most of the users, if not all of the users, and how can we please almost everyone. And then we design these functions, and then I design them and Jeroen implements them. But okay, Mizu. But I think
yeah, sorry. Somebody's talking also. Wants to join the conversation.
But I think at the moment we have too much, not ambition, but too much work for just one person. So we need to find a super person who can help Jeroen and create more code. And I know that a lot of people out there in the community who really want to help us. And in the past we tried several things where community members made something and Jeroen had to oversee it, but most times it wasn't done professionally enough for us.
Well, that's also what you get with open source in general. I mean, if we would open source the utility, then Jeroen will be spending a lot of his time also managing that open part of the open source project, to put it that way. And then he can't spend time on actually developing something that's useful. And another thing, it's like you have the advanced DKS right now, right? working together, talking about it, what's good and what's bad is really great. But what's also really great is that Jeroen and Erik are able to filter out what's good and bad and make the best decision for it. Versus you have five different people making five different things, and the end result is kind of a mixture of everything. It's also what you can see back in. That's also my grudge with Linux, for example, right? Linux is great. It's really great. But what's not so great is, again, if you're an end user, you just want to use it as it is, then it's not great because you need to do a lot of shit. But the options and the possibilities are really open. It's like the discussion we had earlier. You can offer a lot of functionality to your end user, but it doesn't mean they like to use it because the entry barrier is very high. So the opposite of that is Mac, right? Mac OS. You're limited in your hardware choice, but even with those cons, using it can be a very pleasant and great experience, right? It just comes with this big disadvantage. So it's kind of like, I feel for people to say it's as simple as saying just open sourcing and let the community make it for you. I don't think the answer is that easy, and you cannot have that type of dependence, especially not if you have a vision to make in how you would want the user experience to be. And it's just like the QMK firmware, for example. That's the open source QMK firmware for keyboards. A regular user, it's very hard to use it. And if they use it, they 100% depend on one of the hardware makers to make something that makes it convenient to use. And whatever they made for them is the only thing they'll use. They won't go deeper into QMK, even if it's possible.
Oh, and I'm looking at the comment from Fraser. You guys haven't worked a lot with open source, have you? And comparing it with Linux is crazy. I mean, don't get this whole conversation wrong, because maybe in a half year we will be open source because we think that's the right way to go, and maybe within a half year we won't be open source because we think it's the right way to go. But it's just at the moment our opinion, and we haven't made a final decision, and it's just like spewing out what we know. But of course we have to research it more and maybe even experience it before we can make an actual say in this. But focusing on that and making it all open source will cost a lot of time and energy at this point. And at the moment we just want to finish the utility and get all the most vital features, what we think are the most vital features in there. And that's our top priority.
Yeah, you could say definitely that when it comes to open source, the SDK is also a test for us, This open discussion is also a test for us. It's also looking into what does it really mean when we do something like this. Because obviously, that's Nivo, my opinion about it, is to open source the utility itself, no matter what the implication is. You would want to have some kind of experience or some kind of feel for what it actually means to open source something. Oh. And that's what the SDK is doing right now. So depending on how SDK develops, it will very much influence decision making for what can be done for utility. In my opinion, that's how I look at it for the decision making. Yeah.
I think that's like a really cool thing that I don't think we have shared it with from. No, we didn't really share that much, but it's a thing I recently started noticing, or like let's say the last 6 months about our company, about Wooting. And it doesn't matter what the discussion is internally, whether it's open sourcing, a business thing, money-wise, doesn't matter the topic. In every conversation, Calder is like the dreamer, and he thinks like straight ahead, and this is how it should probably be, and this is where we need to go. And Jeroen is the guy who always is in the conversation, like, he's the realist, like, is this going to work? Can we do this? Is this possible? And the thing what I do in all these conversations is I speak up for the end users, and what will this decision be for the end user, and how will they feel about this decision? And I think because we have like these three abstract things in every decision we make, that's what helps us make good decisions.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah. That's... That's how our dynamic works. I mean, and when I have these like throwing this out here, I feel very interested in the discussion. That's also why I'm throwing a very strong opinion about it, because I want to be convinced about something else. So I'm very open to listening what opinions are, because you guys in the end are the ones that influence decision making on our side. We wouldn't be talking about this stuff if we didn't care. Possible unpopular opinion, but from a business perspective, it might be better to keep the software lean and only supporting the special features of the Wooting keyboards, and spend your time and efforts developing new keyboards. And these special things like macro support, auto key press, etc., other software, for example, AutoKey. I would for one love a Wooting keyboard that was signed, for instance.
I totally agree with
but to jump into this, it's a good point, is that right now 100% our income is coming from hardware sales, but actually to do hardware development also needs Jeroen's time because of firmware. So right now we're also working on a project, for example, where we're trying something new, and we need to manage the resource between how much are we going to spend on the utility, how much are we going to spend on this hardware project. Obviously, the hardware project is the one we're earning money on, right? And you would want to say, well, then you should spend your time on that. But for us personally, it's very important that the utility is a much better, works to its best and has new functions, because that's exciting, that's fun. It's also fun to play around with it, it's fun to talk about it, it's fun to do that with the community also. And that's also what makes the keyboards unique, and it's also exploring more the analog side of things, especially when we take it a step further than gaming also, right? And this is where, again, it comes to the point where you're making this decision about, how much do you want to be this hardware company doing 100% hardware, or how much do you want to become more of a software company doing more software? And
I think you explained this a bit wrong, because I totally get your point, and I think we're now still at a very early stage of our whole company, and we are still an actual startup, and there are a lot of opportunities for us, for the future, whether we go software or hardware side, or more of an abstract technology side, because we are the analog masters. But I think now, because we're doing both, and we try to do both pretty well, and we try to spend resources in both things like hardware and software, and the whole paving the road for analog thing.
But that's exactly what you're saying, because we're spending on it a lot of time on both. It kind of chokes you in development speed.
Yeah, sure, it chokes in development speed. I don't think it's bad for us as a business-wise for the future, because now we will see, in the next few years, we will see a lot of competition probably coming up within the whole analog space. And because we are doing all of these three things at the same time, at one point, maybe in a year or two, we sort of realize, hey, we are the best within software, or we are the best within hardware. We should go this route and drop the other thing, because there's competition out there who can do one or the other even better. And let's say we now only focus on hardware. Maybe we get to a point within 2 years that we just realize, hey, we're not so good with hardware compared to our competitors, but then we're really lacking behind on the software side. So I think it's good for us to spread it at the moment, and in the future we can see like, hey, what's our strong, unique thing within this new analog market that's sort of rising, and then we can focus on that for the next few years. And it can be anything, right? And I think that's the beautiful part, and the freedom we have.
Yeah, I mean that's what we'd want eventually, but I guess for being able to manage both those things properly, we would have to have a lot more hardware sales, or you should also be earning on your software side. But it's not that we have any plans at this moment to earn on our software or to implement something there. Because it's like what Rocky says right now, please for God's sake, don't make new products unless little accessory, unless the software for the keyboard are really stable without any problems.
Yeah, so the base should be very good, should be perfect before you go to the next step.
Yeah. But this is also why, we chose to limit a lot of the ideas that we'd have, just so that software side would be a little bit easier to deal with. And don't worry, the new project, obviously is obviously made in a way that we can build on what we have and not like build something entirely new. Yeah. Gotsy stream, will you sell Wooting 2 cables in your store? I want to order 10.
Just PM me, I'll make sure you can pay me and you get some cables, my friend. If we can sell something, well, we will sell it.
So now Bullborn, if you're going to create monetized software, you would have to probably either get a ton more hardware sales or let Utility support non-Wooting keyboards, at which point you would have to split the software into free, premium, and with perhaps Wooting keyboards coming with the premium part for free. Now Bullborn is getting, this is what Erik was talking about earlier, is where you get to the point where perhaps we can have this situation where non-Wooting keyboards, analog input keyboards, can start using the utility, but either the manufacturer pays for the utility, so it's free for the end user, or end user can decide to buy the utility to use it with the keyboard. And that in my eyes would be a very great situation to have, and that in my eyes would feel very fitting for the business model, because obviously me as myself as end user, I would also not want to buy a Wooting keyboard and then also in the software of the hardware that I bought have to pay additional money for functions. I don't think that's a good model. I don't think that's a nice thing to have. But at the same time, as a business, you have to consider all options. So in this case, that's something that I would not want, and I would avoid it as much as possible.
I think the best thing what you can do for the utility is, if you really want to monetize it, make sure it still is fair for everyone, for the free-to-play users and the paid users. So only sell skins. So let's say you can buy loot boxes, and you can have a different top bar color or a different bottom bar color or the gold print skin.
Look at it that way.
Only cosmetics, that would be sick. A 1999 theme, a future retro theme. Man, that's so sick.
Patreon page for utility. Why is smarter for Wooting 2? Yeah, those are interesting ideas. I do wonder if you would have the model where you would say you open source it all, and then you open a Patreon page or similar type of page where community can contribute to your company for doing the work you're doing, other than buying the hardware, for example. I don't know what you would get in return if you support the Patreon page, right? But that would.
If you support $250 a month, you probably get a new keyboard every month.
That's true. That would be actually a very interesting business model to have. That would be really funny. That would be very innovative, also weird, also.
Well, I once had this idea, and I think what I really like is, let's say you can Netflix a keyboard. You just pay a fixed amount of money a month, and you have this keyboard, and if something's wrong, you can send it back and you get a new one within a day or something. And that's about it.
Oh my god, isn't that like fashion?
No, it's like Netflix but for hardware.
Oh, okay.
So let's say you have a Wooting 1 and that costs like $9.99 per month, but you actually want a Wooting 2, you want to upgrade it now. Then you send your Wooting 1 back, and for $11.99 you get a Wooting 2.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I got you.
And you just pay a monthly fee, and you have like the best support ever, because there's like an extra button on your keyboard where you can call Calder directly. It's like,
no way. I wonder how much you would want to have that for your keyboard.
But it maybe sounds weird to do it for a keyboard, but you already do it for your home or for your car. You know, if you lease a car, for example, it's the exact same thing. You just pay a monthly fee to drive this car, and within 3 years you can upgrade your plan and you get a different car or whatever. I sent it all on back. And I think you can do a similar thing with keyboards, which is very interesting in my opinion.
Wait, I see this from Bullborn. I mean, companies like Bullborn is about the major peripheral developers, Logitech, Razer, etc. all seem to already have this software that already supports your keyboard, blah blah. So it just comes down to that all those so they will never be likely to invest in utility, etc. So obviously, yeah, big companies like Logitech, Razer, SteelSeries, they will always go to proprietary route. They will never unify or invest a dime in their competition, unless so if we would only have the software and no keyboards, it could have been a consideration. But I think if we would take that route where people can purchase the utility on an analog input keyboard, I think what's more important is that we're able to enable smaller brands and smaller keyboard makers to actually make an analog input keyboard. So if you would take any kind of mechanical keyboard and the community that's being made with Q&K firmware on it, for example, you want those keyboards to also be able, you want those keyboard makers to also be able to make an analog input keyboard. That would be really awesome. And if we can help them make an analog input keyboard and they can use our software with it, right, then we can either earn from them for paying for it, or they can give it as an option to the end user. You can either have everything Wooting, or you can have whatever standard firmware it already comes with. But this is just like hypothetical. These are just
the last half hour.
Yes, everything is hypothetical. Yeah. It's
hey,
a very.
So, first of all, Wooting 2! Woo!
Oh yeah, congrats, dude.
Great.
It's good. That feels amazing, because hopefully we can do our hardware stuff. Because
okay, but let me quickly.
I want to tackle one more. Because,
did you know, like 1 hour stream?
No, because I feel like somebody said something and I didn't really respond to it. No, okay, oh no, Darren was just throwing ideas out there. I think with the whole plugin and application store and stuff, to be honest, if you think about it, if you would have an application store, you can start asking money for applications, you know. But if there's one thing that really gets the blood under my nails is what we had in, like, if you have like the web stores, all these online web stores, and they have also the application store, and then you have to pay like $10 or $20 a month for freaking store theme, right? It's like, wow.
I mean,
that's more that they're overcharging than that you would not want to pay for it, I guess.
I don't think it's ever fair to ask if you already bought software or have access to certain software, or well, if you buy a Wooting 2 or a keyboard, you actually bought also the utility. That's an assumption you can have. And I think as a consumer, if you bought something and you have to pay more for extra functionalities, that's just not good. But for business, actually, if you have a business or a business person, then it's okay. So let's, for example, in After Effects or Premiere Pro, the most cool plugins, you have to buy them for $250 and you get like this weird crappy interface within your toolkit. But used as a professional, I mean, then it's acceptable. But as an end user, it will never be acceptable in my eyes to ask for more than what you already paid for. And I think if we ever make a app store where even users can submit things, so let's say Darren spent like 2 months creating something and he really wants to have $2 a pop for his awesome Photoshop plugin, I would say like, no, you either make it free or you don't put it in our app store. But sure, you can ask for donations on your app store page if somebody likes it. But that's about it. But somebody can buy a cup of coffee for you.
Well, that's where I would not entirely agree. That's, I think, more where it's like a good balance, because I would definitely feel like if somebody spends a lot of time on making something, that they're entirely allowed to be rewarded for the efforts and ask money for it. It's just that it really depends on what your stance behind it is. I mean, you have enough people doing things because they thought it was really fun to do and they just want to contribute, which is also great. But I feel it's also fair if you make something that, if you have a solution for a real problem within your community, and your day-to-day job really sucks, and then you're able to make something that's really cool, and you can ask a couple dollars for it, and it saves you from your day-to-day job, that's also awesome. So Darren,
sick,
okay,
right?
this time I'm going to say it now. Atom plugins completely rely on donations to support the project.
Yeah.
I said it now, Darren. I know you've said it like 3 times now. So looks like I'm just definitely going to we're going to research Atom plugins, and we're going to take a look if we can learn from that. Because maybe that is a way to go, because in that way we can keep also more of the community spirit, where a lot of development and a lot of progress really depends on community and people actually investing in the things that they want to see happening, instead of it being, there's this in your face, pay for it now.
Okay, now I'm going to jump into DKS.
Okay, let's jump into DKS. Thank you for joining the conversation, guys. This is not necessarily we'll see how things develop, and you can be sure that you're a big part of the decision making. So this at some point will come up again.
Okay, so after the discussion we had the last hour, everybody's wondering what will be in this left bar. Okay, when 3.2 releases to the public, we can do Google Ads here to monetize it even more. That's sick, right? We can do a Google ad here, we can do a Google ad here, we can have one here in the top bar. So much space for Google Ads. That would be pretty sick, right?
Let me just react on Cypher 9516 and Bullborn is yes, you're right, Cypher. I want to actually respond on Bullborn. Is joint hardware ventures is something that we are very interested in, actually. So I might as well just say now, if you have or know a keyboard maker that makes an awesome keyboard that you really like, throw it into the chat and I'll reach out to them, because I can share right now, this is a little Wooting secret, we are doing a joint hardware venture right now where we're trying something out for the first time, and I'm not going to let you know what it is, but I'm looking for more, and it's purely how do you call that? Preliminary. It's purely preliminary. So, do you know a keyboard maker or an awesome keyboard that you really like? Share it in the chat, and I'll be reaching out to them.
Okay, sure. Hey, Mick Doug, how you doing? One idle keyboard. Oops, sick there. Okay, what can I say about the new DKS? Okay.
Oh wait, sorry. I'm so sorry, Erik. God's stream is correct. This is the message I missed, which I had to respond on. To keep it simple, there is a current discussion in the RGB SDK repo about changing the SDK so it only interacts with the utility. So then devs can add layers into the utility to inject custom stuff on top of game SDK usage. So how am I going to say this? This would add value on top of the utility without open sourcing it, and would make it more useful for everybody using the utility. Am I saying that correct? I followed that discussion, and I felt that was a really cool idea to take that direction. It was an idea from Jeroen, essentially, and wait, so where am I going with this? And games could inject profiles into the utility. Yes, so yes, but that, yes, okay, anyway, so that is a very awesome part to have, and I think that will really help also not only games, but maybe also even other keyboard makers. Okay, sorry, Erik, now let's do your let's go into the advanced DKS. Darren says it's really awesome. It's the nicest feature Wooting can give, in his opinion.
Okay. DKS had a long history within our company. And the original name was Double Keystroke, but that sort of is no more. We changed it up, and I think we had this in beta within the old utility. We never put it in the redesign because we actually had like a very good idea for the old utility, how it should look like and how it should feel like, and it's sort of similar what we made here in the end, but we just couldn't do it within the first beta periods. There you had like these images which looked pretty weird, and you had to do some shenanigans with your keyboard to actually make it work, and that's why I think somebody mentioned it here in the chat a while back that Calder demoed it, the DKS, and it just didn't work. At one point.
I mean, yeah, that was at CES probably.
Yeah, it was at CES, but that was like a really hacked slash because we really wanted to showcase it down at CES, but we actually couldn't. But if there's one thing we've learned talking to the press,
it did work, but I couldn't make it work because firmware. I couldn't install the new firmware, the beta firmware, onto the keyboard. But I had the beta utility to show it. Yeah.
But for the press, most of the time, if you just explain the concept for them, it's fine enough because nobody cares if it actually works or not. They just want to report cool stuff. But if you want to try this out, we have this in beta for a while now, or we're going to keep this in beta for at least another week, maybe 2 weeks. And there have been a lot of great suggestions how we can even improve on this further. But if you have the beta, be sure to update your keyboard. You can update the firmware here, and I don't have to.
To make it work.
And I don't have to update my firmware because I've got a special keyboard, so that's pretty cool. Now at the moment you can only find DKS under your analog profiles, so only the active analog profiles. We don't have a clean solution to have it within the inactive profiles. I mean, you can store it within the inactive profile, but you cannot create it within an inactive profile. So you can find DKS under the analog profile, and that's how I'll pick my analog profile one, which is called Bioshock. I don't even know why. There's like in the bottom right here is called the DKS setting, and here's where the first maybe confusing part begins because the UX here isn't clearly, but we have read some feedback about this. If you click new binding, you can see here's a new key, and what you could do is, let's say here's the first thing where you bind your key. So on what key would you like to bind it? And in this case the W. And I'm now already realizing is that we don't have good indication what you're actually doing here. So but let's say
it's mentioned also in the feedback channel.
Yeah, it's also mentioned in the feedback channel, so it's something we still have to work on, but all the functionality is there in a very cool way. So let's say I want to recreate analog walking within a game that doesn't support analog, but a game that does support sprinting and normal walking. So what you want to do is, if you press the key just a little bit, what you want to do is press W to move forward. But you also want to add a shift in the mix, because that's where your sprinting is. So at this moment we have normal walking forward and sprinting. What we want to do in this case is have W pressed down all the time from beginning to end. And a cool thing what we can do is now we can make a point here and drag it all the way to the end. And this means that if I press W, it always activates W. But I only want sprint to sprint when the key is all the way down. So I'm going to make a point here, and I'm going to drag it to this third point, because that's the point where the key actually goes up again. And maybe I should have explained this at the beginning, how this actually works. There are 4 points on this axis. The first thing is the first point where you press the key down. So let's say it's point 0. Then the second point is where the key is actually down all the way. The third point is still when the key is down, but when you release it just a tiny bit. And this last point is all the way up to the beginning of the key press. So in this way I now made a sprint, so to say, on W. What you also could do is, I'm going to move this now, is for example a game where it doesn't allow sprinting but it allows slowly walking by pressing control, you know, like Metal Gear Solid for example. What you could do is just like bind control here, and do it like this. So now when you reach this middle point, when the key is all the way pressed down, you start actually walking normally. And if you lift it up a little bit, control will be in the mix, and then it activates control. We also have another thing besides like where you can hold these key points. You can also have these single actions, and at all these 4 points, the key will be only fire once. And this can be pretty useful in a game like Fortnite. Need to help me here, Calder. The Fortnite example.
Sorry. For Fortnite? So in Fortnite, you can do, for example, like we showed on the Kickstarter now, is, let's see, you have a gun in your hand, then you're going to swap to your building. So let's say you can choose which building is. So usually you have like a key for each building, so you can do that for each building key. But let's say
a wall.
Okay, X is for me, I think, wall, which would be X. Okay, so we have first select X, which is the wall. Then let me see. Then we want to be able to build once it's fully pressed down with a separate hotkey that you can make, which I had on P that time. Don't ask me why it was P. Then as soon as you let go of that last point, you want to make sure that you stop building, but you still have the building selected. So this is still fine. But then once you let go of the key entirely, you want to swap back to your gun again. And then you have a hotkey for switching between gun and building in general. Or you can switch back to your first weapon. So I would usually pro it on my first weapon, would you usually would want to have a shotgun. So that would be my number one. Yeah.
So the cool thing is here, if somebody fires at you, instead of selecting a key where you have to select a building, then place all the buildings down with a separate keystroke, and then swap back to your weapon, you could just like press one key, and you turn your camera around, you start building automatically, and as soon as you release the key, you swap back to your shotgun, which is pretty cool.
You can even do is, instead of P being from the second to the third, you can do the second, from the second to the fourth, you can do from the second to the third, and then you can stop building in between, and then build again.
Yeah.
So then you have, so that's a way for Fortnite, but who plays Fortnite now? We're all doing Apex.
Woo! But bottom line is, you have like these single circles when it activates at one point singly, and you can drag between points to hold the key down between these points. And the first point is from going from bottom, from top to bottom, and then from bottom until you release a little bit, until like you release it all the way again. Yeah, the Apex Hold inventory, for example. That's pretty cool.
I think that's a quick, effective example.
Yeah,
which I think is I on the first press and I on the last press.
Is it?
So that once you press the key, when you hold down the key, it opens the inventory, and once you let go of the key, it closes the inventory. It's a very simple one, but very effective. Or with tab, yeah, sure. Yeah.
So it should be something like this.
I have a small delay, but it's a single fire one, should be.
Oh yeah, of course, single fire.
Yeah.
Or you couldn't do it like this. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could also like.
You can also probably hold it, but I think this is more. No, you cannot hold it.
No, you must have another fire at the end. You can do hold it. That's is fine, but you would always have to need another trigger at the end, like the very end for.
Yeah, you can do it like this. So as soon as you release it, it closes.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that would be the fastest response also. Yeah. Yeah, Darren, this is even faster response. But then you need to keep it really well pressed down. So I think it's better to put it all the way at the end.
Well,
last fire.
This is how the pros do it, Darren.
With DKS, do you have any plans to make anti-cheat software deal with it nicely?
Do you know what would even be better, Calder? If you do it all the way like Cray, because like every pro, you first want to check tab and then check your map, right?
Really? That's what you do every time you...
I do, because you always want to see what a circle is, right? But it's pretty cool how crazy you go. You can have like one key to do everything if you have a task list. And then maybe even...
Oh, that's pretty sick, yeah, because then you can just hold down, but you're going to open your map now also.
Yeah, you're going to open your map.
While you're opening your inventory.
No, because here it closes again.
Oh, okay. Well, but that's really hard to hold it before the end,
no,
maybe?
it's not hard. Just install Black Switch and become an Analog Pro. You'll get used to it. It's like driving a clutch, you know. Once you've done it, you've done it.
I would then do it the other way around. You hold the tab a little bit, and it will open map instead of inventory, and then inventory is like hold down.
Oh, that's also pretty sick. Yeah, so you can just check your map and then release it. Oh, Calder, that's oh, yes, I like that.
Well, we should start using that. I have to try that. Next time Apex, I'll give it a shot.
We can even add another function here, right? That just only does one thing. But what?
Only does one thing?
Yeah. So now we have like inventory, map, and one thing more, you know? We can add even one more thing on a single key.
Yeah, okay, but that... Now... Now that's become pretty crazy. Like throw a grenade, because obviously... somebody's standing in front of you.
Okay, we have to end the stream because Quinn is here.
Yes.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Let me also... Darren is completely correct with answering Bullborn that DKS will not have any issues with anti-cheat software because it's not necessarily unnatural input. Unnatural input would rather be coming from macros. I don't think anti-cheat can even recognize you using DKS because
I think
I have no idea how they would be able to recognize that. That would be crazy. Okay. I think
so this is also a very good macro if you like the Peacekeeper. Let's see.
The velo trick.
Yeah. I think this is a very nice macro if you use this for, let's say you use a Peacekeeper, and there's like a Peacekeeper trick where you can shoot, press reload, swap to unarmed, and swap back to your weapon. And then you can fire again, so you have a higher rate of fire. And I don't think it's a real exploit, I mean, don't trust me on this, but with DKS you can actually mimic this very easily. First you fire reload, then you press free to holster your weapon again, and then you go to your first weapon slot again to equip your weapon. And it's easier than just to press R3 1, you know, because then you have to do some finger acrobatics. But yeah, really, I'm going to try it out after the stream. If Calder's offline, because I'm not allowed to game from Calder.
Oh, you guys still have some working hours to put in, dude. Oh my god, what am I doing? We're almost at 2 hours.
I know.
2 hours of your work time in the stream? Erik, no. And then he can go back home in the night and enjoy his whole night playing Apex. And I'm just here spending my night my free time on this stream.
I cannot play Apex at home, you know. I can only play in an office because my PC is here. I can only play it on the work time.
Oh, so it's even worse. If you're such a high level, you've been playing in your office the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So when you're... Oh my god. So instead of working, you're just playing games, Erik.
No. I play games most of the time in the evening. I didn't really have time to play 3 weeks. I mean, normally I would sneak in a game of Overwatch twice a week.
This is Erik lying.
No.
Yeah, you see? Oh, you can hear it from his laugh.
No.
Oh, Erik. Oh, no game during my working time. No. I know the trick now because then, you know, when it's my 7, it's like your lunchtime, and after lunch, like the whole afternoon, you're just gaming because heck, you know, Calder is probably going to bed soon anyway.
Nobody's complaining anymore, but the thing is, I always have to watch out because most of the time, my afternoon when I really want to game, Calder's online playing Apex, but I really cannot log in by then because that's like, hey, you should be working.
Oh my god, Quinn is so on point. Darren VS, have you had the rant part yet? I think it wasn't necessarily a rant, but it definitely was a discussion about something. Unavoidable on the live stream. But talking about all this working time stuff, I realized that we're already at 1 hour and 52 minutes. And I have 2 other people that you hear in the background rely on me. And we need to make an end to the live stream. We're getting to an end of the live stream. We are at the end of the live stream. So. Can we wrap it up, Erik?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Bye.
No.
I mean, I really.
So thank you for joining the live stream. Thank you for joining the live stream. It was a very fun live stream. I really enjoyed having the discussion earlier and going through the things we went through. I find it really fun to do. Hopefully we'll have this discussion again in the future because, business decisions really depend on what you guys think also. Not just whatever the fuck we want. Oh, I said the F word now. So I had the S and the F word today in the live stream. So in 2 weeks, we'll be back with another live stream. In the meanwhile, looking forward to the public release of DKS and some bug fixes. And
for sure,
thanks
and
for joining.
Keep the feedback coming for DKS because we really appreciate it. And maybe we're going to do something with the feedback. See you guys in 2 weeks. Was fun. And thanks everyone for watching. High five.